Hey guys. So yesterday a friend of mine who is a single mother made a statement to me, and she said that she wishes that she would find the time every morning to pray for 1 hour before she starts her day properly, because she can see that when she makes the time to pray that everything is better, and that she feels as if she is lifted above the world. And she also told me about the struggle of finding that time, especially during her day at home, because she's a single mother and she has a small child, and therefore she is pretty much non-stop occupied with that. So we were talking about this, and basically we were looking at this statement of her that she was saying she feels like she's lifted above the world. And this is what I want to speak into today, because the human person, the human body, we all are spiritual beings, and we have a vessel in this world that is our body. And when you look into Christianity, for example, we are asked to overcome the world and to enter the kingdom and to enter the higher frequencies, the heaven. And what we have to acknowledge, and you don't need to be religious or spiritual or anything like that for this even, because most people who are into any form of sport will know this as well, that you have to overcome, first of all, your own body, because the anchor in this world for our spiritual consciousness is our vessel, and our vessel is our body. So we have to overcome this vessel that we are holding into this world to reach out of the world. This is like our first anchor, or our biggest anchor, because it is where we are anchored into this world. And I'm mentioning sports people because when you can feel when you're like, there's two things. You can first of all feel your mind trying to stop you from doing sports and stop you from getting active into this high frequency, which in German we have a saying for. So there's like that you have to overcome your inner hurdle, whatever you call it in English. But then on the other side, once you do that, you can feel the lightness and the life energy and life force and the clarity of your mind once you do overcome that. So there's like those two elements to this, and it's actually a spiritual experience that you're having. And the same thing happens as well when you're praying or when you're meditating, because you're finding the stillness and the center where you actually can feel the wholeness of your being. And then if this is like the earth and the world that we need to, and where our vessel is anchored in the world, then we have to lift in, or what we're doing in prayer and in meditation is we're lifting ourselves up above the world, and we're overcoming this. Like we are actually coming out of, like, the frequency of our brainwaves are going up, and we can feel this lightness and this absolute outpouring of love in our chest when you pray for. I mean, sometimes it just needs an instant. It's just like a moment that it just needs to happen. But sometimes you can feel like when you're praying and you're meditating that you're kind of taking time, and that it takes effort, and it's kind of like a some sort of fight that you're having to conquer before you're reaching this outpouring of love, this feeling of like just freedom in your heart. And there's several things that I would like to say or speak into on this topic, because first of all, it is this outpouring of love and this energy that we can feel in our heart, and just like it's in everything and in everyone when we're in this state, like, and when you're in this silence with God, because this is where God is entering you. And when we're talking about prayer, I notice, at least in the environment that I'm moving in, that a lot of people understand praying as bringing your prayers before God. So you're the one who's speaking to God. So I believe this is one side of the medal. So I do believe that we are supposed to speak out what we want to see, and that our words are our wants, so what we speak out does become our reality. So we do have to be very careful with what we speak. But there is another side to it. God is asking us also to come to Him, to be receiving of His voice. And for that we need to find silence, the actual silence where there is no thought, where there is no self who's trying to achieve something in this world, but where we let go of the self and we are actually coming closer to this stillness and this purity and love and unconditional love, that is this love that God is pouring into the world. And when we find this stillness of the mind, this is where we make our step closer to God, and God therefore can speak better to us, and we can listen better because we are silent. We switch off our brain and our mind, and we become an empty vessel that can be filled with God's guidance and with God's love. And this is what we're doing when we're lifting our energy up. This is what we're bringing ourselves to. We're bringing us into a frequency where we are saying we are emptying ourselves from the world, ready to receive what comes from a higher force from above. And again, this does not even need Christianity background or anything like this, because this is mentioned in, like, across the scriptures and across beliefs. So it's, if you say you're praying or if you say you're meditating, it's the same thing that you're achieving, is that you're lifting yourself above this level of consciousness where the world is happening, where our five senses can perceive the world, and we're lifting ourselves above that into the spiritual consciousness where we can receive guidance. And in that love that we feel there is this absolutely forgiving and outpouring love that has no conditions, no boundaries, and does not know any self. So when you reach there, then you experience, like my friend was saying, and when she reaches there and then she goes into her day, then she feels to some degree invincible, because she feels like anything could happen, and she is still in this protected, secure space of love that has no condition. So no matter what is going to happen around her, she can stay in that centered heart space of love that comes straight through from God. And what, like, first of all, this is where prayer and meditation is our shield in this world, because there is, like, if we are not doing it, if we're choosing, like, and it's always a choice, yeah, this is like this is the free will, is that we are having to make this choice to find this space. We have to make the effort to get here. We're not naturally here. However, interestingly, children are naturally here until a certain age, around about the age of 7 years, or sometimes 6 years, it depends. But at that age, the brain frequencies change. So when a child is young, their natural state is to be in this heightened frequency where they are in the flow with life and in the flow with God, where they love unconditionally everything and everyone. Therefore, a child will not judge. They are just bringing love out into the world. And for anybody who's working around children or has children of their own, they might have witnessed this already. And this is where, in the Bible at least, it says we have to become like children to be able to enter the kingdom. So we are in this world, and the older we get, the more anchored we get into identity and into thought, and the more linear gets our mind. And therefore every human's journey is supposed to be to overcome the world again and to lift ourselves up again, same as we were born to be in the beginning as children, when we were born in this high frequency, free of the world still. And yeah, so you can see like how we have to lift ourselves up into the heavens to be able to be like children in the kingdom of the world, because the heaven is a place on earth, and it's a place inside of us where God is with us no matter where we go, and we can feel God's presence, and therefore anything in the world cannot touch us, because we are protected by the frequency of our beingness. And it's so important that we reach there. And like my friend was saying, if she was just making that space, she would feel like all of her days would be completely protected. And it's, for what you're getting, such a small effort to be so in line with life and the universe and God's calling. It's such a small thing that we really have to give, but it's actually the most hardest thing, because overcoming the world means the following thing, that we have to, like anything that is trying to anchor us in the world, anything that is keeping us from this pure and innocent state that children naturally hold, and therefore they are naturally always staying into this heightened level of energy, we as adults, we have to consciously make the decision not to bring ourselves into behaviors and patterns that anchor us in this world. And this is where the Bible is talking about sin. And it basically is anything that comes from an unconscious state of mind that is trying to anchor us, like with a chain, into this reality and into this world, and stops us from lifting ourselves up here into the heavens. And this is like where anything where we go against this purity and this outpouring of love is anchoring us in this world. So any time where we are doing obvious wrong things, like whatever, like cheating or lying or deceiving or anything that is to the benefit of self and not to the benefit of the whole picture, is where we are anchoring ourselves deeper and deeper with our roots into this world. And the more we anchor ourselves in this world, the harder it becomes when we are meditating and praying to cut those chains and to lift ourselves up. So therefore some days we can feel it's super easy to get up there, and other days we really struggle to even get a little bit higher, or even just to feel our heart. And this is where then, like this is where in the Bible it says that our, like as a disciple, we are called to use fasting and praying and meditating as our tool. Like unless we use them, we are not able to get into the consciousness where we are able to follow and be guided. And this is this is where the importance of making this space is just becoming so clear, because once you do for once you have experienced it once and then seen it again and again, then you understand how important it is and how vital it is for your whole day and for your whole life, for your whole relationships, for your interactions, for everything that's happening in your life, how much more vibrant and alive and better and peaceful and loving and forgiving and harmonized your life becomes. Because this is the state inside of you that you find, and you find that space because you're opening yourself up to a higher will that is not your own, and not from the linear mind trying to think its way through and trying to find a selfish reason to do things. So and when I look, for example, at John and the work that we're doing and everything that has been, I would say, channeled through him from this state of beingness into this reality, and how he is prioritizing being in this state of consciousness over anything else, because by now we know and he knows that this is where he can clearly hear God guiding him, and only because of this state of beingness everything around us has happened, and all of the children are now in a safe place and loving home, because he surrendered his worldly ego and his identity of self and made the effort, and it is an effort, don't underestimate this. He made this effort to lift himself above this and say no to the world and stay up here until he found the guidance, until he clearly heard God or hears God. But because he made this effort, because he has surrendered, and because he has completely given himself to service, because of this effort and the state of consciousness in which God can work through us straight into this world, because of that, there's more than 200 children with a loving home now, more than so many people who are helping us achieve this, and it's like all of that has come straight from there. And this is just, I know that there's so many people already in this world who have watched this transformation in John and in the world, and what it has brought to be, what path it has carved into this reality, into this world where there's so much selfishness, but it has carved a clear path that is filled with the unconditional love that comes from this heightened frequency. And it's pouring into the world here around us, and it's touching lives and transforming lives every day. And I believe, it's a miracle that he found that strength through the years to sustain this surrendered state, because it is a decision that each of us can make. And if you look at the outcome of doing it, I would even dare to say should make, that we are making the effort to lift ourselves up here, because we are vessels in this world for the unconditional love that can pour through us into this world, and we can actually change lives. We are actually able to transform this reality. And imagine the state of the world if everybody would understand the mechanism of beingness, and everybody would make this effort every single day to lift themselves into this heightened frequency where they can feel their heart, and where they can feel this love pouring out of them, and then go into the world, and how that would change the whole world. So I'm a very much advocate of it, and I just want to share that with you, that I have been able to witness John's extreme effort to lift himself up despite, and it's easy, the mind will always try and stop us. The mind will always try to anchor us deeper in the world by making us feeling like a victim because we are suffering either physically or emotionally or mentally. Those are our anchors. We have to understand the mechanisms of the human beingness to understand that our emotions and our thoughts and our physical vessel are the three things that are like the parts of our beingness that are a tool that can either be used to anchor us in this world or to be used as a tool by this unconditional love to bring this unconditional love into this world. So, we can either let those three parts be our God, basically, and our guiding force in our life. And you can clearly see when this is happening to people, where they are completely just for the pleasure of their flesh, or just only guided by their emotion, or where people are just trying to work out everything with their mind. Or we can accept them as our tools, and then we can also accept that sometimes, when our body is, for example, suffering, we have an ability to lift ourselves above that suffering, and we can still access this unconditional love, however much more difficult it's going to be. I don't want to say it's not difficult, because I have witnessed it with John for years, how he has been extremely suffering in his vessel, and still he was able to manage to lift himself up here and overcome the suffering and use the suffering to some degree even as a teacher. And the same thing can happen with any emotions that you feel. Maybe someone is hurting you or has hurt you or betrayed you, and your heart is literally aching and broken, and you want to be consumed by these feelings of sorrow and sadness and loneliness. But you are able to, when you find the stillness for a prolonged time, then you are able to put down everything that you believe you are in this world. Then you find this distance of like a bird's eye perspective to your worldly self, and you can accept this to be something that is not fully you. But there's someone who can take this perspective to be the bird's eye view, and that is your essence, and that this essence is able to look onto it and can decide if it wants to be fully involved in this emotion or state of being, or if it rather lifts above it, or even can choose if it wants to feel that or not. And this is the gift of being able to lift ourselves up to this frequency, because when we are here and we are so connected to the unconditional love of and oneness of everything and everyone, then forgiveness is actually becoming no option anymore. And this is also, we are asked, in Christianity, we are asked to forgive, and we are asked to forgive anything because we accept that we too are sinning. And with sinning, like I said, because you don't have to have a spiritual background or religious background. It's not a belief system, it's a understanding of the workings of the human body and the human beingness. So when we are in this state of frequency where we are so heightened in our frequency and we feel this unconditional love, then forgiveness is not even an option anymore. It's the answer no matter what, because there's so much unconditional love coming through us into the world that it goes hand in hand with the forgiveness. And that doesn't mean that everything is acceptable in this world, because I do not believe in that. There is definitely there is a state of beingness where we can find forgiveness for everything and love for everything, but it doesn't mean that in this world everything is okay. Definitely not, because we are asked to live in this, we are asked to overcome the world. We are asked to not anchor ourselves with unconscious behavior or behavior that will cause suffering for anybody around us in this world. So if everybody was to live from this state of beingness, then we could definitely clear out suffering, because then nobody would anchor themselves deep enough to with sin, let's call it sin, in this world to cause suffering, because we would lift ourselves before we would even enter the world on a daily basis. After we wake up, before we would even enter the world, we would first make sure we are here before we go into interactions or into our worldly day. And this is our protection when we are lifting ourselves up into the frequency where we are shielded. And at the same time, it's part of our human nature to have exactly this battle, this overcoming the world. This is our journey as humans, that we have to overcome the world, and that we are born with the beautiful gift that we have overcome the world, and then we get lost in it and we have to overcome it again. This is like us slaying our own dragon. So this is a natural journey for everybody, and I believe everybody knows this wave of life in their own life as well. But the beauty is, this is what, once we have reached this state of overcoming the world, this is where we're actually what Christians would call born again. When we have surrendered our world, when we have understood our worldly self, and we have understood the mechanics of our beingness, and we decide to surrender that, to lift ourselves up and to operate from here, from the guidance that comes through us, and our vessel is no longer something where we believe that our self that has been created by experiencing the world, that is in the driving seat, but that instead we put this loving God force into the driving seat that can fill us with this so-called Holy Spirit and guide us into the world and guide us through life and bring us exactly where we need to be. And when that state has reached in a beingness, then we can witness life happening as we are able to witness, for example, with John, where he is often pushed so much to the limit with his vessel and with his emotions and with his mind, but still he is always doing his very, very, very level best to surrender this and to lift himself up. And when he does, then things happen that he, for example, is on the way back home, and on the way home he gets this very strong feeling he should not be going home yet. And it doesn't matter if he has not seen his children the whole day or he has not eaten yet the whole day. All of this then becomes irrelevant because he has that clear feeling of guidance. And then often, and this is on a very regular basis, he doesn't even know where he's going, but he's turning around and he is always led to someone who needs his help right now. And this is not because John is special. He is very special, especially to me. But this is not because of that. It is because he's putting the effort in. He is making the effort to come up, to meet God on the way, and therefore God is able to meet him easier. And this is something that all of us can do, And it's a very simple mechanic of the human beingness that most people sadly do not understand or are not aware of, even because many even religions are trying to approach it from a linear perspective. So we're trying to approach it from a state of understanding with the brain rather than an experience in the whole beingness. It's like once you have understood this and experienced it, it's not a question of understanding it with the mind. It's something that you have experienced inside of yourself, and after that it's like irreversible. Like you have experienced it now, so you are going to ask for more of it because you understand now the difference of the feeling of being down here or being up here. And then the natural aim is to be up here, because life, when you are like in your frequency up here, being in the world is just such a joy and just such a, you are in the flow with life. And most people know this state, and without understanding it or the words, or you don't have to know Christianity in its depth or the Bible or any scripture for it, because it's not an understanding that happens in the brain. It helps when you understand it, because then you kind of understand the rules of it, but it is an experience, an all over body experience that you go through. And this is what I believe should be our everyday goal, that we find the stillness, disconnect from the world, lift ourselves in time, no rush, lift ourselves up here, and once we are up here, bring this love into the world and flush out anything that is standing against this love in this world as well with it. So I'm very blessed to be witnessing life next to someone who has surrendered his life for years already in this way to the love of God. It is an absolute blessing, and I hope that by witnessing it, and I can just hope that everybody will make this effort, because the place we live on, this reality that we live in, would just be such a big joy if everybody would have this outpouring feeling of love all the time in their life. And for everybody, I also just wish that, because it's just so healing and nurturing, and it doesn't need anything else. You don't need to fix your mind, you don't need to fix your emotional side, you don't need to fix your body. You just need to find this love flowing through you, and then everything becomes easier. And much love to everybody. This should not take away the importance of the vessel, because the vessel is our anchor in this world, and we must maintain it with all the love and all the care that we have. Same as our mind and our emotions. They need maintenance and they need care and love, but they need to be viewed as a tool. And our souls, and the Holy Spirit that is going through us into this world, that can bring this love that we all craving so much, and that we all aim for at the same time so much. We just need to make sure that that is our highest focus in life, and then everything else follows through anyways and becomes much easier and much more of a bliss and joy. Much love, everybody.
Most of you know that it is thanks to the love and support of this community that we were able to build a village for special needs children out here in Tanzania. That village now provides a safe and loving home for nearly 200 children that were living in crisis. Most of these children have special needs, but a lot of these children were homeless, and the majority have no parents or guardians in this world other than the family that this community has allowed us to create. Everything that we do is made possible thanks to partners who choose to partner with our family, and with it, make everything that we do possible and keep our doors open for the next children who need some help or a safe and loving family home. If you would like to hear more about our partnership program, you can do so by visiting www.sharetanzania.com/partnership.